The evening sky was painted in gold and rose, but it was your presence that truly lit up the moment. We stood together in the courtyard, surrounded by murmurs, flashing eyes, and the quiet hum of voices that carried their judgments like hidden daggers. I could feel the weight of their stares, the questions in their glances, the whispers they dared not speak aloud. But none of it mattered. You were there beside me, your hand in mine, and I knew with every heartbeat that you were my queen, not in title, but in truth. The world has its way of measuring worth, of deciding who should stand next to a man like me. But love is not measured in status, bloodlines, or the politics of family ties. It is written in the way my soul finds peace when I look at you, in the way your eyes speak to mine without a single word. They could all be watching, they could all be waiting for me to falter, but I would hold you tighter still. I saw one of the elders glance at us, his brows furrowing as though our closeness was a rebellion. And perhaps it was. Perhaps every touch, every glance, every unhidden gesture between us was an act of defiance against the rules of a world that thinks love must ask permission. My grip on your hand grew firmer, not as a shield, but as a promise that I would never let the noise outside drown out the truth we carried inside. You smiled at me, that quiet, knowing smile that has carried me through storms and silenced the doubts of my own mind. In that moment, I wanted them to see exactly what I saw. I wanted them to know why I could never hide you. I could feel the whispers getting louder, but my heart was louder still, speaking the words they would never silence. She's mine, my queen, my soul's choice. I could feel your uncertainty, the way your eyes flickered toward the crowd, as though wondering if all this attention was too heavy to bear. I leaned closer, my voice low but certain, telling you that I would carry the weight for both of us if I had to. And when I said, I don't care who's watching, I meant it, every syllable carved from the core of my being. It was strange how the more they looked, the freer I felt. My world had once been built on appearances, on the careful construction of an image that pleased everyone but myself. But you had dismantled that prison, one glance at a time, until all that was left was a man who wanted nothing but to stand proudly beside the woman he loved. Let them look. Let them talk. Their eyes are powerless against a love like ours. The sound of the fountain behind us became a kind of music, a steady rhythm to the way my thumb traced circles against your skin. I could see some faces soften. Even among the skeptics, there were those who recognized something real when they saw it. Perhaps they envied it, perhaps they feared it, but they could not deny it. I remembered all the times I had been told to be careful, to guard my heart, to choose someone who fit the expectations of my name. But here you were, a perfect fit for my soul, even if you didn't fit their rules. That was the truth they couldn't control, and the truth I refused to hide. The evening deepened, lanterns casting their warm light across the courtyard, but the spotlight in my heart never moved from you. Your laughter drifted into the air, soft yet unshakable, and I felt pride swell inside me. Not the kind of pride that needs validation from others, but the pride of a man who knows he has found his one. When you leaned in and whispered, "They're all staring," I smiled and answered, "Then let them learn what real love looks like." You chuckled, and I could tell that my words had settled into your heart like an anchor against the tide. That was all I needed, for you to know that my love was not meant to be hidden in shadows. Every moment we stood there, I knew we were rewriting the unspoken rules. We were showing that love can stand tall even in the brightest light, that it does not have to be tucked away to survive. I wanted every pair of eyes to see the way I looked at you, not as a secret, not as a temporary choice, but as a forever. The air grew cooler, but my hands never let go of yours. I walked you through the crowd, heads turning as we passed, my back straight, my heart open. I knew there would be those who would never accept, who would always see you as an outsider. But I also knew that history was written by those who dared, not by those who whispered from the shadows. And so, I held you closer, my queen, letting the world watch as we walked into the night together. Not because I wanted to prove anything to them, but because I wanted to prove to you, and to myself, that there was no place I would rather be, no hand I would rather hold, and no love I would rather fight for. The world could watch all it wanted. I had already chosen, and my choice was you. The days after that night were anything but quiet. The whispers that had once floated like smoke in the air began to take shape as real words, delivered through guarded voices and polite yet pointed remarks. Some came directly to me, their faces carefully composed, telling me I should be more mindful of the image I present. Others didn't speak at all, their silence carrying a weight heavier than their words ever could. But through it all, my answer never changed: she is my queen. I don't care who's watching. The first confrontation came during a family gathering. My uncle, a man whose opinions were always worn like armor, took me aside. His voice was low but sharp, his words laced with authority. "Hamdan," he said, "you are making choices that will ripple through this family for years." I met his gaze and replied, "Then let them ripple. I will not live my life drowning in someone else's expectations." His eyes narrowed, but there was nothing more he could say. My conviction was unshakable. Some of the younger relatives were curious rather than critical. They asked about you in hushed tones, almost as though they were afraid to be overheard. I told them the truth, that you were my calm in the storm, my light in the dark, my reminder that love should never be lived in secret. Their eyes lit up, perhaps seeing in our story the courage they wished for themselves. But not everyone softened. There were those whose disapproval was worn openly, like a badge of loyalty to tradition. They spoke of heritage, of the proper way, as though love was something that could be measured by a list of requirements. I listened, not to agree, but to understand their fears. And when they finished, I told them that love, at its purest, is a rebellion against all things that try to confine it. You felt the tension too. I could see it in the way you sometimes glanced down when entering a room, in the way your laughter occasionally faltered when too many eyes turned toward you. I hated that for you, hated that the world's judgment was trying to steal the joy we had so fiercely claimed. But I reminded you every day that you were not walking this road alone. If they wanted to question us, they would have to face me. One evening, the confrontation came not in whispers but in full force. A formal meeting was called, not officially about us, but the undertone was clear. I stood at the long table as voices debated what they called family image. I listened as my name and yours were spoken with a careful blend of concern and criticism. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice, but I let each word carry the weight of truth. You may protect a reputation, but I will protect her. The room fell into a heavy silence. Some avoided my eyes, others met them with quiet defiance. I didn't care. I had said what needed to be said, and I would say it again if I had to. You were worth every raised eyebrow, every tense conversation, every sleepless night spent defending the choice my heart had already made. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. A few members of the family began to reach out privately, offering small words of support, subtle gestures that told me not everyone was against us. They didn't do it openly, but I saw the shift. It was proof that even the strongest walls can begin to crack when met with the persistence of love. There were still those who refused to bend, but their resistance only made me more steadfast. I refused to let them see any weakness in me when it came to you. When they tried to suggest I should wait or be patient, I told them love is not a business deal to be negotiated. It is a truth to be lived boldly. You once asked me if it was exhausting to always be fighting for us. I told you the truth, that yes, it was tiring, but I would rather fight every single day than spend one moment pretending you were not mine. A love worth having is a love worth defending, and I would rather be remembered as the man who defied the crowd than as the man who let it decide for him. Slowly, we began to live more freely, even under watchful eyes. We walked into rooms together without hesitation, spoke openly, laughed without holding back. Each time we did, I could feel the strength of our bond growing, not in spite of the pressure, but because of it. The fire around us was forging something unbreakable. The truth is, every confrontation, every whispered doubt, every pointed question only deepened my resolve. And perhaps, one day, those who stand against us will see what I have seen from the very beginning. That you are not simply a choice I made, but the heartbeat that keeps me alive. And so I stand here, still saying the same words I said the first night I held you under the weight of 1,000 eyes. She's my queen. I don't care who's watching. The world can watch, it can judge, it can try to pull us apart, but it will never succeed. Because what we have is not for them to approve, it is for us to live. In private, their family life is blooming. They've begun opening small windows into their parenting journey, sharing rare moments of joy, growth, and playfulness with their children. The once guarded palace has now become a quiet sanctuary, where poetry replaces protocol, and where truth is no longer feared. Her confession, once seen as risky, has become the foundation of a new chapter in their love story. One built not on expectation, but on expression.